And I heard Trump declaring victory. He said, OK, we've got it. We've got this brilliant deal with Canada. But Canada hadn't actually agreed. What they'd done is got close to a deal. And then, as ever, Trump moves the goalposts. And
now, every Tuesday, we head to the US to find out what's happening in Washington. Sarah Baxter is director of the Marie Colvin Center for International Reporting and joins us now. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Hugo.
Thanks for being with us, Sarah. Look, let's start with America's economic D-Day against Iran. Tehran has said it is confident it can counter a raft of new sanctions announced by the US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday. Here he is speaking about Washington's plans to isolate Iran from the global economy.
Treasury has mapped every node, every facilitator, and every network that Iran has used to smuggle oil and evade sanctions. Beginning today, the actions of Treasury and other agencies will tighten the noose and block every potential source of revenue that funds the IRGC and the evil Iranian regime.
Well, Iran's economy minister has said his country is fully prepared to withstand the measures. Sarah, tell us about the new measures then. How do these new sanctions work?
Well, they don't immediately. This is a warning by Scott Bessent to get in line or get in trouble to third parties who deal with Iran. Iran, of course, has been sanctioned to the gills forever, as it is, but of course manages to find its way around it. It's very experienced at that kind of thing. But what this is really, it's called Operation D-Day. Sounds very military. Sounds like Iran is about to be conquered. Its official name, I think, is Operation Economic Outcast, but it's really about containment. It's really about parking the bus for Trump so that he doesn't have to worry about whether or not he's going to start military action every Monday and announce peace every Friday. And so if it was going to be as successful as Scott Bessent promises, why wasn't it done in the first place? Why are we now in a situation where the Strait of Hormuz is shut to a lot of traffic? Why US bases in the Middle East are now very imperiled and have been hit? US allies have been hit. Why are we doing this now? If it was going to be that successful.
Well, I mean, so the new measures, they're aimed at countries doing business with Iran. And of course, that immediately suggests a host of problems. I mean, Russia trades with Iran. Russia's already quite isolated. China trades with Iran. Does America really want further confrontation with China? All of it looks like it could lead to quite some degree of complication, Sarah.
A lot of complications. And one thing to bear in mind, Hugo, is that President Xi from China is arriving for a summit next month in the US. So does he really, is Trump going to really sort of say, look here, Xi, who, for example, he always describes as his great friend, by the way. I mean, he loves him because he rules a billion people with an iron fist. It just doesn't it just seems hollow. Now, if you're on the receiving end of threatened sanctions from the US, as Scott Bessent outlined, maybe it does feel threatening. But you know what made me feel sad listening to Bessent's press conference was he started to say, and here's a warning for Iranian police and, forces on the streets, watch out, side with the people. And this all dates back to when Iran cracked down so horrendously on its own people. Trump promised help was on its way. And 6 months later, the answer is more and more pain for the Iranian people and a tougher regime led by a cabal of Iranian Revolutionary Guard and others, while a whole strata of leadership, themselves very unpleasant, were assassinated.
Well, Sarah, from one trade war to another, because Donald Trump has also threatened to hike US tariffs on cars imported from Canada after trade talks collapsed last week. How did we get here?
This one, is practically farcical because and of course it depends how far you want to go back, because it really started when Trump came into power and started trolling Canada as the 51st state. And he used to delight in calling Justin Trudeau, the then Prime Minister, Governor Trudeau. And he actually didn't do that with Mark Carney for ages, but did just now over these tariffs, started calling him Governor Carney. So, it started with this rather sort of infantile plot to seize Canada and incorporate it into American territory. But it really ratcheted up, bizarrely, when the wildfires were happening in Canada in July, and smoke started billowing over to the US. Do you remember how New York and the whole eastern coast looked sort of weirdly orange and smoggy, and everybody was afraid that the World Cup was going to be carried out in, the final in New Jersey would be in deep sort of smog, which thank goodness cleared. And Trump started to say, well, we're going to punish China for not doing enough to stop the wildfires. We're going to slap on some tariffs. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any kind of particular plan. It's just, I want to get at Canada. I want to do this. I want to do that. Okay, we'll slap on some tariffs. Then there are frantic negotiations to stop them coming into effect, 30 days later, i.e., the other day. And I heard Trump declaring victory. He said, okay, we've got it. We've got this brilliant deal with Canada. But Canada hadn't actually agreed. What they'd done is got close to a deal. And then, as ever, Trump moves the goalposts and throws on a whole load of extra terms and conditions and says, look, stuff it. You've got to agree to this or walk away, which is exactly how he behaved with small contractors when he was a property tycoon. It was like, look, here's our deal. And then it's like, well, do you want to get nothing for this deal or do you want to get something? Because I've changed the terms. And that's what he's tried to do with Canada. And it just isn't working at the moment, or at least not with Mark Carney in charge for now. I mean, who knows? Maybe, Mark Carney's described it as war. It could get very nasty indeed economically for both sides.
Well, he's a busy man, Donald Trump, because he's also visiting Ireland next month. He's timed the visit to coincide with the tournament at his own golf course. Presumably he's going to be doing more there than just watching golf, is he not?
Well, I think he's mostly going to be watching golf, isn't he? I mean, he plays golf every weekend, but he's going to Ireland. Ireland is an ally. He doesn't like the way they've been behaving towards Israel, however. But I just think it's astonishing how he always goes where his golf courses are, and always invites people to summits where his golf courses are. It's an astonishing way to cash in on the presidency. So that's his latest wheeze.
He's going to meet the Irish president, Catherine Connolly. She's previously called him volatile, unpredictable, and capable of acting like a bully. Is that going to be awkward, or indeed no more awkward than it is when he meets everybody else who says this stuff?
I don't think it's going to be in the least bit awkward. And he's been forgiving everybody ever since, his first term when Boris was in power, and had also said rude things when he was mayor of London about Trump. So, in fact, Trump likes to have people who've said rude things about him kiss the ring. And I should think he's looking forward to the president of Ireland doing the same. I mean, she's going to be polite. He's going to be polite. He's going to say it's a beautiful country. I have a beautiful golf course. And this, and I have very good relations, he always says, with the people. He used to say that about Keir Starmer. I'm sure he'll say that about Andy Burnham. If he ever meets him, he'll say, I like him. He's a good guy.
He's a good looking.
Of course, he's totally wrong about everything.
He's a good-looking man, he'll say. Look, finally, Sarah, you've been writing this week in The Eye about Melania Trump. It's been suggested she might feel threatened by Trump's closeness with his aide, Natalie Harp. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't think she's that threatened, by the way. So, of course, the Natalie Harp saga being that, Trump has a blonde aide who absolutely adores him, showers him with praise in what seem like love letters, even though there's no suggestion that there's anything physical between them, and is at his side 24/7. Now, Melania is said not to like that, but I don't think she's threatened by her. She famously stood up recently, a few days ago, at one of her own charity events, saying, "I heard you miss me," she purred. Well, here I am. But the thing that really amused me was it turns out that Melania has her own Natalie. So because she was launching something called a foundation, Fostering for the Future, a very lovely event about foster children and how they were going to get higher education, it turns out she's got her own guru, who's this long-haired tech guy called Mark Beckman. And he's rather handsome, slightly more age appropriate in terms of age gap, but, definitely sort of cool dude into AI, robotics and things like that. But get this, Hugo, he goes by the title of exclusive senior advisor to the First Lady, Melania Trump. I think we should know more about Mark Beckman.
I love the exclusive, just to keep it clean.
Me too. I mean, it's such a fancy title. I mean, Natalie Harp is a mere, executive assistant and special assistant to the president. This is an exclusive senior advisor.
Exclusive senior advisor.
And very sort of California cool.
That's an ambition. Look, Sarah Baxter, thank you very much indeed. Sarah is director of the Marie Colvin Center for International Reporting. Always good to speak to you, Sarah.